Hello and welcome to Localgiving's latest lunchtime learning session. Today we're focusing on an introduction to online fundraising, and by that we mean every sort of way that you can raise donations through Localgiving and the internet. We'll be looking at really tangible outputs for that, and we'll also be looking a little bit at our AI tool as well. But the focus today is really on the digital fundraising itself. So my name is Lauren Swain. I work with Localgiving as their regional programs manager. I think I've been with them 10 years as of this week, actually. But initially, my work was very focused on Wales and helping organisations across the nation to get started with this online fundraising. So I'm very familiar with working with many different organisation types in getting started with all the things that we'll cover today and delivering training sessions around that. My work now is more UK-wide on the grant side of things. Localgiving distributes a number of grant programmes on behalf of funders, which I'll talk about a bit as well. But today our focus is mainly going to be on what is Localgiving, what is online fundraising, what do we mean by that, and crowdfunding. How do you communicate about your cause? How do you actually let people know about it? Running a successful crowdfunding appeal. So if you've got something specific you know you need to raise money for, how do you go about doing that? Engaging individual fundraisers, so getting other people to do the fundraising for you. Monthly direct debit donors, so you can have those regular givers. Actions to start fundraising online. And then we'll look a little bit at Localgiving's AI grant tool, but there are specific webinars around that too. And we have a recording focused solely on that on our YouTube channel as well. So what is Localgiving? So Localgiving at its core is an online fundraising platform. We're completely focused on helping smaller community organisations to access the same tools and benefits as large organisations. We very much work with those large organisations as well, but it's to level the playing field in terms of how donations can be processed. We give all of our members gift aid, whether they're registered charities or not, which, you know, is really a really big boost if you're a CIC or a community organisation or something like that. And we run a number of grant tools in recognition that a lot of the organisations we work with are volunteer run or small staff teams or people wearing a lot of hats, and anything we can do to help you save time and optimise, you know, the way the world's going, then we'll really be able to guide you through that and help you access things like that as well. We have distributed over £25 million in grants alongside this. So organisations can apply for grants through us, whether they're a member or not. But if you do become a Localgiving member, you can access that donations processing, the gift aid, and whichever level of grant tools you select to. So at its core, we help you raise money, access grants, and use AI potentially for the first time in doing both of those things. So what is online fundraising and crowdfunding? So online fundraising basically refers to any activity where donations are collected through the internet, or you might call it digitally. The average online donation is double that of an offline donation. Obviously these days, post-COVID, you know, more and more people, you know, aren't used to carrying cash, and that online donation is much more of the giving culture, increasingly as well. Having an online donation page like this means that you are much more likely to come up in people's Google searches, for example. So it's something called search engine optimized. So if you've got information about your organization online, then that means if someone is looking for a children's charity in Suffolk, then your organization will be lifted up through the Google searches and be easier to find. And so it's really important to have an online presence in that way. And our pages are specifically geared to make sure you appear in those searches as well. So an organization who wants to become a member of Localgiving, or who already is, the first step is to always create an online donation page. It's really simple. It looks like the page on the right, and it really summarizes what your organization does as a whole. It will constantly tally what you're raising and things like that, and keep that updated. But you yourselves can add examples of what donations go towards and what they equal for you. And it also means that organizations have a link to your page that you can send them directly to. Underneath that page, you can then have fundraiser pages, which I'll show you in just a second, which focus on fundraising for specific things. But it's all of this fundraising really focuses on what we call crowdfunding, which is a term you might be very familiar with. You might have just heard it a few times, but really it talks about having lots of individuals to give small amounts to make something happen. So a crowd coming together to achieve a larger fundraising goal. So that's what people mean when they refer to crowdfunding. For us, interchangeable with saying online fundraising. It just means lots of people giving through one place to make something happen. And you can have fundraiser pages that focus on doing just that. So you've got your main local giving page that talks about your work as a whole. And then you can have fundraiser pages, as many as you like, sitting under that to raise money for specific things. Now, it might be you as an organization have made a page to say, we want to raise money for our under 16s team to be able to do some away games. And you've got a fundraiser page for that. And you're sharing it and encouraging donations directly through that. Or it might be that you're encouraging your supporters to have their own fundraiser pages too, and be like, oh, are you doing a run? Oh, great. You could have a fundraiser page if you'd like to raise money for our organization. You know, we'll talk about lots of fundraising ideas in a bit, but anyone can also make that same fundraiser page, have that target, and all of these amounts will then feed in to the total that you're raising through local giving. All of them can access the gift aid that we're processing on your behalf as well. So what does it look like when an organization logs into their account? So if you're a local giving member and you log in, then this is the dashboard that comes up. You can very easily update your local giving page. You can very easily see any fundraisers, any supporters, and download reports about those donations. You can have multiple people with logins. So if you have a treasurer or a finance colleague who needs their own login to run off reports, to check against bank accounts, that's nice and easy to do as well. You can do that in these account sections with loads of articles and advice. And then there's this new section at the top, which is all AI focused. So I'll talk about that properly later, but that is also where you can start to look at those tools. And yeah, just have a really good go at how those things can help you. So you've got your local giving donation page. You really need that page to be as strong as possible. In terms of what we recommend you focused on, you know, be really clear on why your organization is in existence. You know, what is it that you're doing? What are the circumstances that brought you into being? What is it that you're trying to achieve? How does your work address the challenges that you're describing? Like, what is it that you're actually doing? And the resolution, you know, what does the situation look like as a result of your work? What are the outcomes? What are the stories? What are the testimonies? What are the statistics? Anything that you have to really be clear about what those things are moving forward.
Hi, Tanya, could you go on mute, please? Tanya Burke, we're just getting a bit of your sound coming through.
Brilliant, thanks, Luke.
Thank you.
And then once you've got this donation page and it's really strong, then you need to be able to start telling people about it, and you need to think about who you want to tell and what you want to say to them. So a very basic way of starting something like that is mapping out your network. Who is it that interacts with your group in some way? Who is it that knows something about your group, even if they don't know everything about your group? You know, it might be people who've used your services. It might be family members of people you've helped. It might be volunteers. It might be people who've donated in the past. And each of those different groups of people is going to have a different message put to them. You know, some people, it's absolutely appropriate for you to ask them to donate. And, you know, if you don't ask, you don't get. Other people, perhaps the message is to give monthly. You know, they're already invested in supporting you through time or money historically. Perhaps they'd like to give you that lifeblood of monthly income, which we'll talk about later. Perhaps, you know, someone hasn't got the financial means, but they'd be really interested in doing a fundraiser, or you've got a group that you help or work with, and the group is a collective, would like to do a fundraiser for you, or at least all of those different segments. It's always appropriate to ask people to share what you're up to and to share your donation page as well. In terms of then spreading the word, you know, social media, we'll talk about that a bit more in a second, but that should be very image heavy. It should be very visual. It should be encouraging people to share. Traditional media, you know, online articles in particular are really worth considering, particularly if you're fundraising for something that is going to be visual in the community. You know, you're updating a park, you know, something that is going to be noticed by surrounding people as well. And newsletters. You know, newsletters via email are so important. You know, a third pretty much of online donations are still because of an email. So doing a newsletter and providing updates and building those relationships are really important. It doesn't have to be something that's weekly or, you know, something that's a burden to you. It can be monthly, it can be quarterly, whatever it is, but it should be talking about what you've done and what you're doing going forward, and providing some calls to action as well. You know, moving people onto not just their next level of being involved in your services, but yeah, next level of fundraising and donations commitment to you as well. So in terms of that social media, this is what it might look like. So something like X or whatever platform you may or may not be using, you know, you can just do a summary about what it is. You've got this new donation page, guide people to it. Facebook, similarly, particularly things like community groups, it can work really well to share what you're up to. And there are lots of free tools out there to make those social media posts as visual as possible. So you might be lucky enough that you have really good photos of your work, or perhaps you don't, or perhaps your work is something you can't take photos of. You know, you work with vulnerable people. There are lots of reasons out there. But you can really pull strong images still, either using stock photos on something like Pexels, or using something like Canva to make your own. You know, it means that you could even then write up the text and turn it into an image, and, you know, then your information is an image itself. You know, it's really easy to use. We love Canva for everything, you know, every sort of poster you're making, every Facebook header, images even for your fundraising page, you know, can be really easily made on there. So you've got a really strong donation page. You're starting to think about who you're telling about it and how you're spreading that word. How do you then fundraise for something specific? So you as an organization or as a team have something that you must raise money for, and you know roughly how much you want to raise for that. How can you go about that? So there's two main ways you'd approach it. There's been reactive or there's been proactive. So reactive covers when something's happened and there's an urgency, quite a, you know, a short-term urgency around meeting that goal. So for example, this is an organization, there was a gas explosion in the area. One of the community organizations was asked to fundraise for it by the council. You know, we got them up and running within 24 hours and supported them the whole way. And that is then a really tangible ask to help people with essential costs and home essentials that have been lost and things like that. And they exceeded their target, and something like that then just gives people somewhere to go very quickly to show their support in every way then. But most fundraising will fall under proactive. So you'll know in advance that you need to cover a project for another 6 months, that you have a holiday hunger activity going that you need fundraising for, or that you need to replace a piece of equipment, you know, whatever it might be, you generally know across the year some things that you're definitely going to need to raise money for. And so the best thing then is to plan ahead with that. And just to give you another example, so one of the organisations that I would have met with in Swansea, they wanted to build a new wildflower garden in one of the public parks in Swansea. They had a Facebook page, but other than that, were very uncomfortable with anything online. And so, you know, we worked with them to come up with a bit of a plan about how they could spread the word in ways that they were comfortable with. That included really basic things like posters around the park, flyers in the plant shop, contacting all of the houses and businesses around the park who would enjoy the wildflower garden, reaching out to the local councillor who covered the printing costs. So however it works for you, you've got this online page you can start to bring people to, and you know, they raised almost as much offline as they did online, but because they asked and they had that center point, you know, it motivated people to be giving, and they made a really good video of the space and what they were planning to do, and that was all part of their page then as well. So most of us fall into that proactive campaign. If that's you, then you need to start thinking about the target. We would encourage for your first online campaign doing something between £500 and £5,000. And the reason for that is that you want it to be worth your time. So you want it to be at least £500. And you'd really be surprised that when you start asking, how many people do end up giving as well. And we'd recommend you not to go higher than £5,000. And the reason for that is because you'll learn a lot from your first campaign. It will also help you understand things like what is your average donation size that's been given. If it's £10, then you know how many donors you have to reach to raise something for more than £5,000. So it'll just help you learn along the way. And also it just it gives you the highest likelihood of your appeal being successful for you as well. Because if I'm someone that can only give you £5, it will feel like my donation is helping you forwards, compared to if you've got something like a 20 grand target and it feels like my donation is a drop in the ocean. And you don't want to put anyone off from giving to you that first time, their first experience of supporting you as well. Really give suggested donation amounts of what people can give, to say, £10 will enable this to happen, £50 will enable this to happen. The average donation UK-wide is £20, and on Localgiving it is £50. So it really is higher than you expect. So make sure you do include a higher suggestion. Psychologically, you would have one a bit lower than the average, one a bit higher than the average, and then people probably will go somewhere in the middle as well. But yeah, you can base that, if you've done any past fundraising, you can base it on past fundraising as well and what's worked well. There is something called the 70-30 rule as well, which is that if you raise the first third or so of your target, you are likely to get the whole way. And so how successfully you start off, if you've got enough people engaged to donate those first donations, then you're likely to get all the way. Part of the reason for that is because if I'm a donor and I go on your page and you've raised £300 out of £1,000, great, it looks like you're on your way. There's nothing there to put me off. There's nothing there to think that you're not going to get there. And that can really help as well. There are a couple of different ways that you can do that. So you might have an offline donation already. Perhaps you already got a grant towards the same thing. Perhaps you've already done some fundraising. So you can add that as an offline donation, and then instantly your target bar will show that amount. So say you've had 250 quid donated already, you can add that you've had that. That will show on your page, and then you're never on that £0 mark for people who come to donate. Another option is that you can do something called a soft launch. So you can say to your network, look, next week I'm going to start promoting this on social media and more widely. If you did plan to donate to us anyway, it'd be so helpful if you could do it this week, because then together we could raise the first few hundred quid, and it will really be encouraging for new donors and put us in as strong a position as possible. So you can kind of let people be in the know, kind of let people be part of getting that really strong start. And then that's, you in the really strong position before you start spreading it more widely as well. And obviously maintain momentum. It's your job to keep encouraging people to donate throughout the lifespan of the campaign as well. And for that reason, we'd encourage you to do a campaign that is around the 3-month mark. You want it to be at least a month because you want it to have time to reach people. You don't want it to be any more than 3 months, because it will lose that momentum and lose that sense of urgency. So wherever works for you between kind of 1 month and 3 months is a great time scale for a fundraising campaign. And on Localgiving, you can draft them and have them ready to come live on a specific date, in advance as well, particularly if you need other team members to sign off. Other fundraising can fit really well into this. Grants, you can use your online fundraising as evidence for your grant applications as well. You can say, we've raised £1,000 from the local community to make this happen. We're now looking for a grant of, £3,000 to, get all the remaining funding for the project. And, that fundraising then really acts as evidence that people care about this happening. They've invested in it, that people are desperate to see this for that, your organization and the community. So one can really help the other in that sense as well. Match funding as well. Some grant givers will match fund what you're fundraising, or businesses will do the same as well. Perhaps if you're raising money from individuals, then a local business might commit to matching whatever it is that you're raising through that as well. And similarly, we'll look at in a minute, businesses can do fundraisers for you as well. It's worth thinking about what you would view as a successful year. So throughout the next time period ahead, how many fundraising events would you like to do? When's your logical time to do them? How many donors would you see as a big success? How many direct debit monthly donors would you really like to achieve in the next year? And you can kind of start to set out some goals for yourself about what you view as then worth any time you're putting into it, and just to be able to evidence to the wider team, look how great online fundraising is as an effective way to get donations in. And then you can start to plan those out across the calendar. It might be right, okay, spring, lots of people starting to sign up for fundraisers. That's a great time to focus on that. Or we have an AGM at this time of year, let's do that fundraising there. You can start to piece things together in that way as well. Just to give you an example of an organisation piecing things together. So this is essentially a community centre in a very deprived area. They hadn't fundraised before. They were very unsure about asking their community for donations. And so we focused on really tangible fundraising concepts then. So initially they fundraise for a defibrillator. That's such a tangible output. People understand exactly what the donation is going towards and why they're being asked, and it's immediate benefit to them. They funded that within a week. They did campaigns such as money for young people to be able to go to prom and afford outfits and things like that. They did money to help fuel poverty support. In COVID, they did an appeal for food parcels and urgent health, mental health support and things like that. So really tangible outputs where people understand why they were being asked for money. They understand exactly where it's going to. And then it removes the awkwardness as well. There is no awkwardness if people understand why you're having this conversation. And all those things then resulted in them raising enough to actually invest in a part-time fundraiser. And then obviously that means they can go forward and put more and more time into raising more and more money then as well. Be resilient. Fundraising, it can be a lot of pressure. You've got people's salaries potentially depending on you, or the continuation of really strong projects. Every win is something that should be celebrated. The whole organization should be supporting you. Everyone benefits from money coming in. So, however this lands on your plate, they should be involved as well, at least in sharing the word and spreading the word. Or possibly fundraisers and things like that as well. The more you do, the more learning will happen. You'll get better. You'll have more data to analyze. You'll be able to see who's giving. And yeah, you'll be able to see how you can spread the word most effectively as well. So looking a bit more at individual fundraisers. So you've done your fundraising. You've had some crowdfund campaigns. Alongside that, you also want to be asking individuals to do fundraisers for you. Now, that might be local businesses, it might be current employees of yours, it might be sports clubs, schools, absolutely anything. Group fundraisers are really effective in that sense, because then, if a group is fundraising together and each of them is raising an average of £20, it quickly stacks up without being too much pressure on anyone. But it can just be an individual doing it. On average, fundraisers do raise at least £500, and they bring 16 new donors to your organisation. Because if your relative is doing a fundraiser, then you're going to support them, whether you know the organisation they're fundraising for or not. So it's a really good way of you getting new people to know about you and to grow your network. So if in those earlier slides where we're planning out who your network are, if that network's really limited and you just don't know, fundraisers can be a really good way to start off and expand that donor base as well, if you're not quite sure where to begin. In terms of fundraising ideas, if someone says to you, oh, I'd love to do a fundraiser, not sure, or you want to suggest some ideas to people, there are sites out there like Let's Do This, and you can look at a location or a type of event and suggest things as well. So that's one option in terms of existing third-party events, but you can encourage people to come up with their own fundraising ideas as well. It hasn't got to be something physical. It can be whatever they want that they want to apply a challenge to. Some examples, so there's an organisation that keeps Snowdonia clear of litter, particularly after, loads of climbers leave a lot of mess. And so their fundraiser was that they were going to walk up and down a few peaks of Snowdon, doing litter picks along the way. So it's actually doing the organisation's work, but they're fundraising against it as well because they put some targets against it too. And something like that is just a really good idea of what a fundraiser should be. It should be something that fits in with what you're already doing, something that doesn't take extra time for you as well. And we'll look at that a bit more in a minute. Another example here on the right, one person wanted to cycle around all of the venues that a disabled theatre company had performed in that year. And so they're taking what they enjoy, they're applying it to something that's relevant to the organisation, and together they're then raising lots of money in a way that just makes sense as well. The bottom one here was focused on giving people a suggested target. So the organisation got in touch with people who'd been through their services. It was a recovery organisation, and they said to people, did you know it cost £300 to help you when you were at crisis point? Would you like to give that support to someone else? And then they had all these fundraisers with these £300 targets, and it meant that every one of those individuals had a really good reason for reaching out to their friends and family to support them. It was really clear why they had to try and raise at least £300, and they suggested that anyone could do what they wanted, but they suggested that people could do a swimathon in their own local pool, swim a certain distance, whatever time of day works for them, to go along and do that over a period of time. And then something like that is just really accessible for both fundraisers and donors as well. When I'm talking about coming up with an idea that saves you time, doesn't, create extra activity for you to be managing, a few examples. So a community dance group might do something like a dance-a-thon over a 24-hour period, or not even that, 12-hour period. And that's then using the room that they already have, the materials, the skills, the insurance that they already have. They have, say, worked through a table like this. They know the basic facts of the people involved are that they're young, most of them are under 18, they love their dancing, and they love hanging out with each other. Their relationship with the charity, maybe they don't know it's a charity, maybe they don't know that fundraising is needed, and so this will encourage more knowledge of that. The motivations are that they would love to get involved and have fun with each other. And so something like a dance-a-thon where everyone signs up to a 20-minute slot, and between them all, they're covering a period of time. Each one of those individuals is raising their own money towards a collective larger target as well. And it's not really been any more work for anyone apart from being there on the day. A student volunteering group, encouraging students to volunteer while they're at university. That then, they then did a fundraiser around sponsor us to give 1,000 volunteering hours this month, or whatever the amount is that's relevant, and that you're it's something you're doing already, you're putting a target against it. Yes, it might encourage people to do a few more hours as well, but actually it's something that's quite realistic for you to achieve, and it just really highlights how much you're giving and you're fundraising around that as well. Something like a Friends of Park group, clearing a certain amount of area in the weekend, or redecorating a building over, a day. You can just put a challenge at a target against something that you're planning to do already as well. And you can get people to vote on ideas. You might have a few ideas, other people might suggest it. If you get people to vote on the ideas, then they're invested from the off, and I voted for that idea. Yeah, I'll get involved and get behind that now when it is that you come to do it. Other things to bear in mind: awareness days. It's just an excuse to get in touch with people, an excuse to ask people to do a fundraiser for you. Your own anniversaries or important dates for you as well. And then corporate fundraisers as well. Lots of businesses have Charity of the Year. That might be then an organisation where they have a fundraising page going for you for the whole year, and then every time they do a dress down day or a cake sale, they put little bits of money in as they go. Or some businesses want to do larger team building fundraisers, and they want to climb a peak, or whatever it is, they want to do a team fundraiser and raise money for an organisation as well. It is worth having a little bit of a toolkit ready for fundraisers. Like if you've got, a folder with your logo in it, with a suggested paragraph of how to talk about your organization, or a suggested social media post or poster that they can use. Make sure everyone's got the link to your main donation page. If you can just give those few things, that individual is equipped then to talk about your organization in the right way, most effectively as well. Monthly direct debit. So monthly giving is often seen as like the holy grail in fundraising, but if you can get those monthly donors, they're so worthwhile because they generally stay with you for a long time. It's really worth the effort in getting them. You can, very much speak to them in a way that lets them know how valuable that is. That knowing how much you're having coming in every month means you can plan ahead. It means you can commit to delivering XYZ. It means that you can get on with protecting this group of people because that the money is sorted for running that project. You can really let people be in the know and why that gift is so helpful to you. The average direct debit brings a UK charity, £67 every 3 months. Obviously, we can be gift aiding that for you as well, whether you're a registered charity or not. And the aim would be to guide supporters through giving stages. So initially, they might just be giving to you on a one-off. Then you might see that they given to you for a few different fundraising asks, and then you would want to guide them on to being a regular donor, or then to give a larger amount as well. You can then give them a really, good idea of, £10 a month is just £2.50 a week. That's, way less than a coffee a week these days. People can pay their memberships through Localgiving as well. So if you've got a friends membership or sports subs, they can be paid through, but obviously they're not eligible for gift aid if they're getting something in return, like a space in a sports team. Something like dress down days or dress up days in schools, non-school uniform days, they are eligible for gift aid. So things like that. You can be encouraging people to give for something like that and then give on a regular basis going forward as well. And you can have tailored thank you messages as well. So on Localgiving, you can draft thank you messages that go out to certain people, and you could have a thank you prepped for a normal donor, your fundraiser that's going on at the moment, and your direct debit donor as well. But you really need to see that as a relationship and a conversation that you need to keep feeding and get them onto a newsletter and things like that as well. Just to give an example, Cardiff Food Bank, they didn't have any direct debit donors. They started asking, and therefore they got, and it was being really tangible in terms of this donation feeds a family of four for a week, giving really clear examples of why you need that monthly donation. And they then had almost 500 direct debits from that then. And obviously that's huge then. That is, you're having really regular income coming in. So in terms of getting started with online fundraising, this is our sign up link. You just type Localgiving into Google or your search engine, and there will be an option to sign up on the website as well. It's just a case of thinking, what do you want to fundraise for first? Experiment, do try a fundraiser yourself, do ask someone to do a fundraiser for you. And as you can see on the left, there are all these different ways that we can help you alongside that fundraising as well. We have lots of articles and webinars to provide lots of ideas, and our tools and our platform are just really easy to use as well. Just top tips and things to consider, do add donate buttons to websites that link through to these donation pages, or you can have them in the email signatures. They're always at the bottom of your emails. Prepare messages to thank donors. You might want to do that in bulk, you might want to automate it. We really encourage you to thank people within 48 hours. They will receive an instant thank you from us anyway on your behalf. But if you can do that personalized one, that always helps as well, particularly if they're a regular donor. You can ask close contacts to get you started. You can very much say to people in your closest network first, individually and as an organization, to help you get started. And just don't be afraid of telling, because if you do ask, you do get. And even as individuals doing fundraisers, it's astounding how many people will give you 5-10 quid or more and help you get going as well. On YouTube, our channel is called Localgiving Guide. So there are webinars like this on there too, but we'll share the main ones with you via email after this. I just wanted to talk a little bit about Localgiving's new AI grant tool. We have whole webinars specifically focused on this. That'll be one of the recordings we share with you. But I just wanted to show you in relation to all of this, what you can access. So we have launched a new AI grant assistant in the last year. And what that really means is that we want to make it as easy as possible for organizations to create really solid project plans, and for organizations to find grant providers, and for organizations to generate those grant applications. We are very aware, and a lot of funders are very aware, that in organizations and individuals are using different AI platforms to generate their applications at the moment, and that's leading to really poor grant applications. And so rather than using an AI platform that's quite generic, we've built one specifically for the charity sector that completely understands what's needed, completely understands what to look through and find, how to talk about these things in a funding application. And rather than just pulling things from the internet, from your websites and things like that, there is also there's also an AI chat that will take you through and tease out lots of information from you. It's a little bit like sitting with a consultant and then asking you about a project and then making you think about it a bit more, and then saying, have you thought about this, and what are the beneficiaries in this aspect? And it's like having a conversation with someone until you end up with a massively solid project plan, and then it uses that to then find your grant suggestions and that information plus online information to create really strong application answers. So still pull statistics and things like that from the internet that are really useful about your communities and things like that, but it's just really solid then, the information that's produced, and it's really just the exact right tone for a grant application as well. I've used it for organizations I volunteer with, and I've had to change, one sentence. Basically, it doesn't overpromise, doesn't make, sign you up to be doing extra things in the project. It's just really clearly gives you the answers to the applications, without being repetitive, and just getting as much across as possible in whatever the word limit is. So let me show you a little bit about what that looks like. So initially, you go to your AI profile on Localgiving. There are various membership tiers you can sign up to us on. There's a free membership option where you can give this a go, have a look. But under the AI profile, you need to check that the information we pulled from your website, etc., is correct, or add an extra information. Both those things will result in us adding various tags, as it were, to your organization to flag, what your causes are, what your main activity is, and things like that. The best thing then to get started is to go to the fundraising assistance section, and that is your conversation. So when I said it's a bit like a digital consultant, that's then your conversation. It will take a good, half an hour as if you're having a conversation, to work through that. If you're not comfortable typing and that would really slow you down, don't have to type. There's a voice function there. You can just speak to it. It really accurately then puts your answers in. It has multiple language functions. You can do this in any language. So if you're more comfortable planning something out in your own language and then turning it back to English, that's absolutely fine. That is on there too. Once you have talked about all the information, the AI will generate a project summary that is there to see online, but you can also download it as a document, and that really talks about your organization as a whole. I would then run that past, a colleague, a CEO, whatever, and just say, you happy with this as a general summary of organization? They will be, but they know then all your applications are based off of this, and that's just a really good way of communicating that. You can then go to this section. There's this to-do list section here. It says project details, this to-do list, and this is one of the coolest bits really as well. So there'll be a list of suggestions to make your project as strong as possible, and part of that will be the AI itself can answer them if you want it to. It can do anything. So, for example, if you're wanting to do a project working with homeless people, then it could suggest local food banks that you could start with. It could suggest organizations in the area. It can suggest local statistics on needs, absolutely anything. You can use the AI to add these things in and find that information. What are the number of students this age in your area? Whatever it is, and it can just do that internet research aspect straight away for you as well. There'll be some things that it will suggest that it can't do. So like it might suggest that you need a safeguarding policy ready to do these applications, the sort of thing a lot of funders ask for, but we wouldn't, some of those policies we wouldn't suggest. We'd want you to do them properly, or if it's something people need to get legal advice on, we would always encourage that to be done properly. So anyway, you end up with a really good project plan that can then be summarized under different project names. So you might have gone through that discussion with the AI assistant and planned out a couple of projects. It might look like this. You can then view those. You can then generate grant searches for each of those projects. You've almost got multiple grant searches going on at once. Under one of those, it might be all these suggestions. Usually there'll be a few pages of suggestions. You can then bookmark those that you're most interested in as well. It will look something like this. So you'll be able to look at the overriding summary. You'll be able to look at what good quality match it is. It will say what's a high eligibility match, what's medium, etc. And then you can then click draft application when you're ready. That then looks like this. And basically you add the questions that you want it to generate answers for. Usually there'll be about 3 to 5 questions. You'll be able to add what the word limit is on that. So, okay, this funder wants 500 words about this and 1,000 words about this. And then the AI will generate your perfect answers for that to the perfect word limit. It's just absolutely brilliant. You can then download a draft. It looks something like this on the right here. So it'll have every question, it will have your answer. And it's just brilliant. And then it's a case of you going on the funder website when you're ready, then copying and pasting these answers in, because then obviously you still need to add those organizational details when it's asking for the email of the lead contact and to upload a budget or whatever else as well. But that is all your writing done. For example, when I did this all the way through for an organization I volunteered for, probably took me about 4 hours to have gone through the whole process of making the AI profile, doing the talk with the chatbot, generate my application suggestions, generate my application answers, have that, go on the funder's website, enter all my details. In that 4 hours included all of the budget work. So obviously that's a slightly longer section when you're on a funder website to enter in all your budget information, and then have sent them. And in that time, I did a grant for 34,000 and a grant for 3,000. And all of that front to back was 4 hours, whereas that would take me days usually. So it is just really so effective. But yeah, as I've said, we've got whole other AI webinars that take you through that live as well. I've just shown you screenshots there. But yeah, if anyone would like to ask any questions going forward, we have our general help at localgiving.org for any questions you have, or my colleague Luke.Upton at localgiving.org for any particular questions around the AI tool or grants or offers that we have on an ongoing basis as well. Brilliant. Thank you very much.